Hey everyone, we had a question about impact and how that happens if there's no self and no other. Well, it makes it very simple, really, doesn't it? This understanding that impact is happening all the time. Um, there could be things in the background here that are impacting your system in some way, couldn't there? There could be memories that are being brought to the fore. There could be emotions. There could be beliefs that are being created by the things that I'm saying. There could be thoughts that start to pop into mind. So the whole system is alive and responsive, isn't it? And there is absolutely no one in control of how that system responds to whatever stimuli. I mean, that's got to be a fact, hasn't it? It's automatic and um, it's an outcome of whatever program is in place that will say that is something to pay attention to, that is something to believe, that is something to keep as a memory for future, but it's all happening automatically. And we think we're the controller of all of this. We think that this self that we believe ourselves to be is deciding what impact is allowed, what form it takes. How could that possibly be? Yeah, so that's the first thing I think is really fascinating. And if we think about it from when when this tiny baby form really comes out into the world and starts to, well, all the time, right from the moment of birth, isn't it? Before there's this sponge quality of absorption of information and the mind is busy starting to formulate rules for the physical. What happens when I drop this cup? What happens when I throw my food at the wall? Rules are being formed as how to navigate this physical environment, and equally how to, as the self idea starts to develop, how to be in this world, how to be loved, how to be safe, how to be secure. And and so the impact of everything that is happening around that baby is impossible to quantify, isn't it? And impossible to know really ever why some things stick as a belief and some things don't. Oh, sorry, so noisy. Impossible to know that really. And yet there's this constant um, filter really of things that come in that are not even noticed, and then things that come in and stay with us for the rest of our lives. Um, yeah, so that's the first thing. Impact is happening, and the system is responding to it constantly. And we could say it's completely unconscious, really. The conscious mind, thinks it knows what's happening, but it doesn't, does it? That the system, this unconscious, alert, responsive intelligence is gathering, collecting, responding without any input from the conscious mind. So there's that to begin with. And then, so equally, we could say the same for the unlearning. So really, this conversation is mostly about unlearning the construct of self and reality that can create so much suffering. And how does unlearning happen? What is my impact as a teacher with the people on my courses in terms of unlearning? How am I bringing that about? Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? There's words that are being said here, and there's responses that are happening in the student that might create this amazement of something just falling away that was an enormous weight that had been carried around for decades, suddenly gone. Or, as happens, the impact is to create confrontation and such a heightened level of symptoms. I might put a video out and someone might react against it so with such intensity that they leave the course, because the impact has been to increase that level of self-activity, increase the protection, whereas in others the impact is the dissolution of it. And who's doing that? And who's saying the words that have that effect? It's mad, isn't it? No one. And no one. These systems, this sort of integration of these systems that have no center, any of them, have no individual controller or doer. It's mad. So we can move from that then to, often the question is, how can I have more impact? So I guess what we could say to that is there are techniques, aren't there? Given that the voice and the actions are speaking to these systems, there are techniques, of course, aren't there? We see dictators using fear, using fear and threat and violence, and turning people in on each other, mistrust. Massive impact from these things. We see advertising industries having an enormous impact in the desire that they create, in the belief systems that are activated in terms of how loved I'll be, how much sex I'll get, how sociable I'll become, how successful I'll be with these things, how respected I'll be. The impact is quite scientific, really, in a way, isn't it? It's quite predictable. These conditioned systems that are largely fearful, shameful, full of desire, full of insecurity. It's not hard for someone to tap into those systems to sell something, or to create societal change, or to position ourselves as something. So it seems to me that isn't the question. How to have impact really, really isn't the question, ever. The question is, what is going on in this system that separates it out from all others? Because when that remains unaddressed, what there is an insecure set of beliefs here that is out in the world trying to secure itself. And what we know is that behavior that comes from that intense insecurity of being, when it comes from that intense feeling of alienation from this apparently objective world, what we know is that brings about either intense suffering for this mind body here, in that futile attempt to have enough impact that I can be secure, or it will create suffering for the people who are at the receiving end of my behavior. Can't be any other way, because the alienation from everything is so great, and the desire to find wholeness is so great, and yet all the behavior coming from that place continually pushes everything away, and so the behavior just gets more and more intensified, and damage all round, suffering all round, confrontation, conflict, all of it in that space. So we could be in that space wondering how to have more impact, and God, please don't. Yeah, let's not allow ourselves to have impact in that space, because it's violent, really violent to self, violent to other. But when what we are is questioned, and that idea of a separate individual in a separate world becomes increasingly incongruous. Like it's not possible that the view of myself is separate from how you appear. When that starts to become obvious, either intellectually, either through the mind sort of realizing itself, or through, the sort of revelations falling away, then the impact of this mind body is only to its own self. Because when I look at you and all I see is what I am, profound understanding that you are not separate from me. I am you and you are me, and we are life. What the essence of what we are is inseparable. Then the impact, the behavior, the words, the actions, the writing is coming not only from love, from peacefulness, from wholeness. It's talking to that. It's talking to that. It's talking to itself. And it's impossible in that space. When it's profoundly in that moment, when there's just love happening, impossible that any word can come from lack, can come from a desire to put myself above you, a desire to manipulate or control or create fear or shame. Impossible. It can't come from that space, because in that moment everything is aligned. The mind, all beliefs, all thoughts are aligned with the truth of what life is, the truth of existence. And so it's ironic, isn't it? It's ironic that because in that space there isn't any thought of impact. It's not. It's not even. Doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist, and yet the impact of someone, like we know it, don't we? When someone loves us and speaks to the potential of us, not to the behaviors, not to the thoughts, not to that whole surface tension stuff, speaks directly, profoundly to what we know ourselves to be underneath all of that. The impact of that is beyond words, isn't it? So it's ironic that in the moments of when there's no thought of, there's no concept of it, the power of every word is immense. But when we're really in that space of lack and we're trying to exert control, exert a protection around ourselves, we're trying to manage and change people so that we can be secure, and we're using these techniques to do so. Yes, there will be impact on behaviors. Yeah, I mean, we see it, don't we? The behaviors that come from fear. But there's no the reason for wanting the impact will never be fulfilled in that space, because it's coming from lack. It's coming from a delusion that this reality is separate from me. And although I could change everyone's behavior in the world, I could have the entire world bowing down, worshipping me. It will never give me what I want, because it's coming from the belief if everyone worships me, then I'll be okay. But I still won't be, because it hasn't changed anything in my understanding. In fact, it's just made it more apparently concrete. This chasing of security with each little win, with each person that loves me, with each, development along this progress of my impact, just reinforces the separation. So it's a brilliant word, impact, isn't it? and that what we've said here, it sounds irrelevant. I know, I've spent my life in corporate environments and big businesses and consultancies and stuff, and so and I know how someone in that could say, well, yeah, but I need impact. I need to do my job. I need to be promoted. I need to have people listen to me. All of that will come from presence to what's true. It won't come from lack. And the more presence to what is true, the more revelation there is of what we are, the more the world opens up from that space. Oh yeah, really. Any profession, that's true. Yeah, that's where the world changes. That's where the whole field will change from that integrity, like genuine integrity in the sense of wholeness, of I am the whole thing. This is my world. This is me talking to me. Yeah. Yeah, massive, isn't it? Thank you, everyone. Lots of love. Bye.